Okay, everybody, let's talk a little bit today about weight loss and running and how to look after your nutrition, keep it balanced so that you can keep your energy balanced, not overeat, train well, and all those good things. Okay, so I've spoken to quite a lot of people recently who've said a handful of things to me. One of the main things that people say is, yeah, I'm running, it's great, but because I've been running, I'm hungry all the time. And that makes complete sense, and we'll go into it. The other thing that people say is, when I'm trying to lose weight, when I'm actually running, I just don't have the energy to run. I'm not eating enough food. I don't feel fueled up to get moving. And so you can see that both of those things are kind of contradicting each other and do make the balance of losing weight and running a bit tricky if you don't do it in the right way. And I just want to give you a few tips that I personally use currently and have used in the past to make sure that I can train well, eat well, lose weight, maintain energy, and kind of juggle all those things at once. I do want to preface this by saying that actually, when we are trying to lose weight and trying to run, that is often a tricky thing to do at the same time. Totally possible, but it can be tricky to balance things. And I just want to say that, to be honest with you, I think there's a certain amount of unavoidable discomfort in terms of being a bit hungry, being a bit more lethargic that comes with lots of running and lots of not eating as much. And so I think partly you need to accept that this is a bit more uncomfortable time and that you're going to have to implement strategies, and sometimes it's okay to be a bit hungry if you're not used to not being hungry. But let's start with strategy number one. If you're finding yourself particularly unenergized, unable to train very well through running and eating less, it's really important that you focus on when you are eating. What I see tons and tons of people do who are trying to lose weight and running is practice eating like normal. They still do 3 meals a day, maybe they have a couple of snacks, but what they don't do is they don't eat specifically around training. If you know that you have a running workout coming up, what you need to be doing is considering when you're taking your main carbohydrate sources or your main energy source around your training. That means, are we having lots of our carbohydrates for the day, half an hour before our training session, and the same thing goes for half an hour after our training session. How this looks if you're losing weight is actually maybe you don't have that many calories to play with. Maybe you've got 2,000 calories to play with a day, 2,500, something like that. What we need to be considering is if we're training in the morning, do we need tons of carbs in the evening for our main meal? Probably not. If we're training in the morning, then actually most of our carbohydrates should come for breakfast or just before our training session and just after our training session. So maybe we have porridge instead of the eggs we've been having, for example. Again, it depends where you want to get your fuel source from and energy source. We won't go into the details of carbs versus fats versus proteins and all that stuff today. But think about, can I pull my diet back because I train in the morning and actually have more of my calories, more of my carbohydrates before my morning training session and after my morning training session. The same thing goes for if you're a go to work, come home from work and train type person. Can we think about using most of our carbohydrates for lunchtime perhaps? And then have some more after the training session before we go home? Or if you're an evening type trainer, can we have more of our carbohydrates for dinner, less for lunch, less for breakfast, more for pre-training? Now, this is kind of kill two birds with one stone. We are looking after our calories and we're making sure we're planning them throughout the day. When's the best time to have them? When's the best time not to have them? And also it's going to keep you energized and fueled for your training. Now, I'm a big believer, for me personally, if I can fuel my training properly, actually I'm not that hungry outside of it. Now, hear me out. What lots of people will do is they'll eat a little bit throughout the day, then they'll do their training session. And so what they've done then, if you think about it as numbers, let's think about it as pure numbers. If you eat 1,000 calories up until your training, spaced out a bit for breakfast, 500 breakfast for the sake of making it easy, 500 for lunch, and then we go and train. So let's say we've eaten about 1,000 calories and we run for an hour, maybe it's 45 minutes, then we do a bit of strength training. It's very possible as a heavier person trying to lose weight, you're going to be burning well over 1,000 calories during that exercise session. Now, what does that mean? That means once you've finished, you are going to feel depleted. You are going to feel tired and you're going to feel lethargic. What does that mean? It means when you get home from your training session, your body's going to be screaming at you saying, you've been feeding me well for months and months and months, years and years and years perhaps. Why are you now depleting me of all of this energy through exercise and you're not feeding me? So what you're essentially doing to your body is doing two traumas that it's not used to. Your body, one, as someone trying to lose weight, is not used to you losing weight. So it's telling you, eat. Why aren't we eating? We feel normal when we eat. Then it's saying, why are we exercising? Why are we running? Why is my heart rate high? Why are my lungs going? And your body is going to be telling you, feed me, feed me, feed me. And to a certain extent, your body is completely correct. You are now exerting yourself far more than you were, and therefore you do need to fuel to maintain where you are at. But what we do know is losing weight is a simple equation for 99.9% of people. If you exercise more and you eat less, aka you burn more energy than you consume, you will lose weight. And so what you need to do is find strategies to mitigate that. And I really do believe fueling around your workout, before and after, will mitigate a lot of that stress you're feeling about feeling more hungry after running. And honestly, it's amazing to me how many people, because they haven't done that, haven't taken those approaches, will do really long training blocks. Sometimes working up to marathons. So you're doing easily 2,000-3,000 calories additional a day, sometimes on a long training day. Maybe you're doing a long run on a Sunday at 100 kilograms. I'm probably over 2 hours burning over 2,000 calories, okay? Or there and thereabouts, a random estimation that is. Now, should I be eating 2,000 calories to refuel that? Sort of, yes, right? Sort of, I should look at that and I should think, well, I at least need to give my body enough. I need to fuel myself enough to feel okay either side of that. And now for me, it's taken some time, it's taken some planning, what works, what doesn't work. For me, this looks like a good amount of carbohydrates before my training. I'm talking at least 100 grams of carbohydrates before training, so maybe 400 calories-ish worth of carbohydrates before. Ideally, if we're doing a long training session, we're having some carbohydrates throughout. And again, this is that thing that we forget as heavier runners. To begin with, we need more carbohydrates. Why? Because we're using more energy to move. Why? Because we are going to be burning more as we go, so we need to keep ourselves topped up. So easily 30, 60 grams of carbohydrates an hour isn't a silly number at all. And that's something we should be working on. I think most gels are about 30, so maybe it's 2 gels an hour, for example. Or it could be a solid food if you're doing a bit of walk, run, walk, run. And then after the training session, again, this is where we're doing two things. We're trying to do carbohydrates and proteins. Proteins to recover, repair, all that good stuff, maintain, build muscle. Carbohydrates to give our body back the energy that we've just got rid of it. And I'm not saying to overindulge. And I'm not saying to hit, thousands of calories worth of carbohydrates, because that's what most people do. Because in fact, your body is fantastic at adapting. It will be able to push through being in a deficit for a long period of time. And so don't over carb load. And to be completely honest, unless you're doing carb loading properly, so as in slowly ramping over a number of days before an event, there's not that much point in eating 3,000 calories worth of pasta before your big training session. It's also not beneficial for someone who's trying to lose weight. Okay? Anyway, that's that portion of the video and that rant over. And I'm sorry if it was jumbled in here and there. Basically, fuel either side of your training session, and it will go a long way to saving you being as hungry afterwards and also keep your performance much better. Okay, so next thing I want to go on to is a little bit about the types of carbohydrates you're consuming. Now, this is a touchy one for me because I think actually drinking your calories for lots of people isn't that beneficial, particularly if you're someone who struggles to lose weight. But when we are going into a training session in terms of intra fueling, I am a big proponent, as if that's the right saying, of maltodextrin and fructose powder. Now, you can take what you want, gels, carbohydrate powders, all that good stuff. I think it's good to get used to implementing those into your diet and tracking them into your diet. I have a theory that lots of people, when they start training and running, and they start tracking their calories in order to lose weight, is they aren't factoring in those sources. So make sure you're factoring those sources into your training and using them, because they are phenomenal tools, particularly for sustaining and maintaining energy. Okay, last but absolutely not least, is basically exactly the same as what I said at the beginning of the video. Losing weight and running further is hard. It's really important that you recognize that it is hard, you listen to your body, but you try sometimes to not listen to your mind so much. It's important that you listen to your body in terms of volume. Am I training too much? Is my body taking a beating because actually I'm a bit too heavy to be doing the mileage? Do I need to spend more time on the bike? Because actually spending time on the bike in lots of ways is going to save a bit of energy, but it's still going to give you the opportunity to burn more calories, okay? So try and do that. Think about that. Also, really think about how is my body feeling on the amount that I'm eating. Often your body gives you good signals that if you're fueling sufficiently and you're seeing the scales come down, you shouldn't feel too rough. And if you're feeling particularly rough, look at it. Do a bit of tracking. Think about what you've been taking in. Have you been eating good sources of food? Or has it just been junk? And I thought this would be fine because I'm running. And that's honestly what most people do. Most people think it's fine because they're now running to eat X, Y, and Z. Oh, I can eat this because I've done X, Y, and Z, right? It's not the truth. The other thing is, and like I just said, to a certain extent, you need to switch off your mind to all of it, okay? So as long as you're not getting injured, as long as you're able to train well, perform well, to a certain extent, once you finish your training, you've fueled around your training, you need to try and separate your brain from your body a little bit. You are obviously going to feel hungry because you are in a deficit. That's how it feels. We can add strategies by, a bit of snacks here, a bit of eating there, but it's going to be uncomfortable. And I think for lots of us, we spend a lot of time, we all want to run the marathon. We all want to run the 5K, 10K, whatever it might be for you. But we don't want to also take great satisfaction in those daily little discomforts. Running a marathon is uncomfortable, and we want to do it because it's uncomfortable. We want to get to the finish line because it was a bit miserable, it was a bit hard, but there was people cheering you on, and you got to the end and you did a hard thing. So why don't we want to do a hard thing every day? Why don't we want to be able to say no to the Mars bar, even though we really want it? And why don't we get the same hit of dopamine from those daily wins that we do with this big grand finishing victory and everyone clapping you? And the reality is, for most people, it's because what we want is people to clap for us. And if we had 1,000 people lining the road, either side of wherever we went every day, wherever we walked with our food, eating our food out of our dish, and there was 1,000 people watching us and cheering us on, do we think we could stick to the diet? Do we think that we could eat the right things? Do we think that we could stay in a deficit? The reality is yes. For most people, that pressure, that people looking around you, that people cheering you on is the powerful thing. That is the driving force. And what I want you to try and do is try and switch your thinking and imagine in some ways that those people are watching. And if that's how you fuel yourself, think about all those little wins, all those little no's, all those little yeses as being really powerful tools for getting you to where you want to be in the best state possible. And that's the last thing I'll finish off with, is I want you to think, as a heavier person trying to lose weight, trying to get ready for running, is this weight loss, this bringing the weight back safely, sensibly, carefully, looking after yourself in the process, is going to have a huge impact on how you're able to perform. Huge. And I know this because I was once very heavy. I know this because I've gone from 108 kilograms in December down to 98 kilograms now, and I feel better. I can run faster, I can push harder, I can recover quicker. And that's clear, it's obvious. I don't have as many injuries, any pains, any discomforts. So think about this process as important as your training. Your training is important. It is, incredibly. Miles under your feet goes a long way, a huge way. And the amazing thing about running is we see people of all shapes and sizes running and finishing. But there is a truth too, if you are a bit lighter, if you fuel yourself healthily and well, no matter who you are, no matter what shape you're in, you will be set up in a better position to perform better and, importantly, feel better with your training and with your final run. Anyway, I hope some of that resonates with you and is helpful to you. If not, and you've got any questions or you've got any thoughts, please feel free to share. I'm always open to criticism or constructive feedback. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll catch you in the next one.